It's been a while since my last Undawn video. In today's short guide, I will teach you how to develop your genes through genetic recombination. First up, let's clearly determine what high-quality genes actually are. It is simple. A high-quality gene is a gene in which every stat is useful. On your screen, you can see numerous examples of high-rating genes from the market, and they are all shitty, because all of them contain completely useless green stats like damage increase against animals or festering chance reduction. I'm sure you don't want to have such stats in your genes, so I will show you how to avoid them. As you know, genetic recombination requires two genes, so the most common mistake people make is that they just pick two more or less good genes, lock some good stat, and press the button. It is the worst thing you can do. Because if at least one of those genes has shitty stats, you will have a chance to get them in your resulting gene. Understand this: when you combine two genes, the resulting stats may be retained among the stats contained in both of them, and the retention is random. So rule number one is not to have useless stats in either primary or secondary genes. In this case, your resulting gene will be guaranteed not to contain them either. And this is exactly what we are striving for. One more important thing you should do is always count unique stats. Genes cannot contain two of the same stats of the same quality. Simply put, it's impossible to have two blue armor stats in one gene. So the number of unique stats in the example on your screen is 3, but probability display shows that you have a chance to get 4 stats as a result. Where did the fourth one come from, you ask? If you go to the Effect Preview tab, you will see that this fourth stat is going to be random, and it is also not the thing we want, because there is a chance to get some bad stat. So before combining your high-rating genes, always check this tab and make sure there are no random stats here. Our strategy is to reduce any randomness to a minimum and get only good stats in our genes. Now let's talk about recombination itself. First, you should choose your primary gene that you're going to develop. It might be any gene with one or more good stats that you'd like to save. At this stage, your goal is to remove from this gene all the useless stats. To do this, you can simply recombine it with the worst genes you have, relying on randomness until you get a clean gene without any bad stats. Also, you can combine it only with good genes that don't contain useless stats, but this is gonna be more expensive. One way or another, you should first remove everything unnecessary, and only after this, try to add something useful. Let's say you succeed and your primary gene does not contain useless stats, like the one on your screen. Then you should choose a secondary gene, and this is where problems begin, because it must not contain bad stats either. Otherwise, you will have a chance to get a disaster like this one, and I don't think you really want it. Therefore, you will have to remove all the bad stats beforehand, or simply buy a ready-made clean gene from other players. Next, let's understand which stats from your primary gene you want to save. In my case, this is obviously purple damage reduction, blue damage reduction, and blue armor. But here is the problem. I can only lock one of them, and this is gonna be the purple one. How to save the rest? Fortunately, there is a way to double your chances of saving the stats you want. For this, you simply need to have them in your secondary gene as well. Since the stats of a resulting gene are taken randomly from a common pool, each duplicate stat has double the chance to appear in the resulting gene, which is quite logical. So the best thing you can do is to create a good secondary gene as similar as possible to your primary one, but with extra useful and unique stats. This way you will have the highest chance to save not locked good stats while adding extra ones. All of this might sound quite difficult, but once you understand this principle, you will start doing this automatically. Let me show you a practical example. In fact, I could improve my secondary gene even more by adding extra useful stats, but since I wanted to make a video, I didn't have a choice because I was out of recombination agents. Nevertheless, I was lucky and got quite a decent result. I will repeat it once again. When combining your high-rating genes, make sure both of them do not contain any bad stats and avoid random stats in the result. This is painstaking work, but as you see, it's worth it, because when crafting this gene, I spend about 500K in terms of resources. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, and, as always, thank you for watching.